Hey friends, I'm Michelle Markey, and if you're like me and enjoy saving your money and collecting some of that sweet interest, you're going to want to pay close attention to today's video because I've gathered for you over 60 high yield interest bank accounts as of April 2023. And if you notice a pattern, I've done similar videos like this before, and every time the Federal Reserve gets together and hikes up their Fed funds rate, that's great for us savers who want to maximize the interest on money that we've saved and put away in FDIC insured bank accounts. So with that in mind, I hope you'll like and subscribe to my video and YouTube channel, and let's get into some of these high yield bank accounts. Since I last did a video about high yield interest accounts back in January this year, things have gotten pretty interesting with banks because you may have heard that there have been some bank runs like with Silicon Valley Bank and some other banks that might be in trouble. And that might have made you wonder if any of your hard-earned money could be at risk in some existing banks. But you should feel reassured if you have your money saved up in an FDIC insured bank, which means that up to $250,000 per bank account is covered by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, aka FDIC. So if you have up to that amount of money in an FDIC insured bank, you are set because your money is safe and you don't have to worry. Now, you might be a little bit concerned if you have more than some of that in some of these banks, or if your money happened to be in Silicon Valley Bank. And in that case, my heart goes out to you and I hope you get your money back. But if you've watched the Christmas holiday video, It's a Wonderful Life, that came out in 1946, this might be a little bit reminiscent of that, where you're hearing now for the first time in a really long time of bank runs, and we haven't seen that many banks collapse in a while. Like the last one I think was, that was a major one, was Washington Mutual back in 2008. And for the most part, we've seen a pretty peaceful era with banks until now, where because of a number of reasons, including how the Federal Reserve has to raise interest rates to combat high inflation, this is causing some of the assets of banks to decline. And that means that higher Fed funds rates are good and bad. Like, they're great for us savers because the Fed funds rate recently hiking by 25 basis points in March to the range of 4.75 to 5% is good for saving, because that means more banks are willing to raise their yields to savers. And so a lot of these banks that I've gathered for you offer competitive rates that are in that similar range of like the high 4% to 5%-ish range. And it's not so good if you're trying to get a mortgage loan, where the prime rate for some banks will be something like 8%, and that means that loans could be as high as 9% or so. So it's not great if you're trying to borrow money now, but if you're trying to save money, it's pretty awesome. So with that in mind, some things I also like to just make sure I communicate are things like, I look for banks that have zero fees to maintain the bank and zero minimums to open the account or to maintain a minimum balance. Like, I prefer there not to be any restrictions of that sort. And of course, if you end up having some overdrafts, it's good if they don't charge exorbitant or any fees. And some banks have zero overdraft fees, so that's kind of nice to look out for as well. And so you'll have to be the judge in looking into some of these banks, because some of them have pretty strict expectations if you want to get the highest yield. Like, one of them is Mango Savings, giving you 6% interest, but they make you kind of jump through hoops to get that. So I don't believe in spending money to just earn interest. So I would rather not have to spend any money to earn interest on my hard-earned money. So I would tend to skip out on a bank like that. But there are plenty of others that don't make you jump through hoops, that are well within the high 4% range, that I think you'll find reasonable as long as you do your due diligence and research on them, like by looking up reviews on depositaccounts.com or also bestcashcow.com. And you'll see, based on other people's reviews and maybe some of your friends and family members' experiences with some of these banks, which ones might be good to go with. And I hope that'll help you. Without further ado, let me show you my list of the high yield interest bank accounts that I've collected And like I mentioned earlier, Mango Savings looks appealing with 6%, but it's just a little bit too much of a hurdle rate for me. And then there are a few others that offer rates as high as 5%. And you're going to want to look into those carefully and definitely look at the restrictions, because some of them cap out how much you can earn that, say, 5% on, and some of them start you out at only 3%. So some of these might include the likes of CFG Bank, UFB Direct, New Tech Bank, Consumers Credit Union, and Vero Savings. So you're just going to have to be careful with some of these and make sure you carefully read the fine print before you were to open any accounts with them, and make sure you know what you're getting involved with before you commit. And also, like I said earlier, definitely check out reviews or find out through word of mouth how other people's experience has been like with any of these banks before you go with one. Even though they have a pretty appealing rate, like 5% is pretty awesome if you can get it and be okay with the conditions. And then there are some others like Redneck Bank, which I've enjoyed looking at in the past. And even though I don't have an account with them, I like their imagery on their website. It looks super fun with their farm animals, and they're currently offering 4.8% on their checking account, but that's only on balances up to $15,000. And I think over that, you might only get 0.5%. So be on the lookout for that if that's a big deal to you or not. But again, don't judge a book by its cover just because it says that name. And then moving on to some others, we have Western Alliance also giving you 4.8, VO Bank giving you 4.77, Northern Bank 4.75, Basque Bank at 4.65, and Brilliant Bank also at 4.65, Presidential Bank 4.625, Salem 5, 4.61, Western State Bank 4.55, Bread Savings 4.5, Cit Bank also 4.5, and a bunch of them more like First Foundation, Ivy Bank, Merchants Bank of Indiana, Total Direct, all giving you 4.5%. Bank Purely and others giving you 4.45%, including Popular Direct Savings. And then My Banking Direct gives you 4.38. Primus Bank gives you 4.35. And the same with Fitness Bank, which I've talked about before. And I like what their whole deal is to try to get people to be fit while saving a lot of money, which is good. And then My Savings Direct also gives you that 4.35. In a similar way, iGo Banking is 4.34. Wealthfront, that offers both brokerage and savings accounts, are 4.3. Canadian Imperial Bank USA is 4.27% and apparently is available in the US. And Connexus Credit Union is 4.26%. And a bunch that offer 4.25% include Citizens, Elements, La Capital Federal Credit Union, Lending Club, and Rising Bank. And then BMO and Valley Direct give you 4.2%, Garden Savings 4.07%, Transportation 4.06%, Prime Alliance and Sally Mae give you 4.05%. And then a bunch, including one that I think is a pretty good bank, Ally Bank, is giving you 4%, and Forbright and SoFi, Synchrony, and T-Mobile Money. But T-Mobile Money only gives you 4% up to $3,000 if you're a T-Mobile customer. And for everybody else and all balances remaining, it will only be 2.5%. So keep that in mind if you are interested in T-Mobile Money, which is also known as Customers Bank, FYI. And then there's also Connect One Bank giving you 3.9%, Virtual Bank and NASB giving you 3.87%, TIAA Bank, which is also known as Everbank, is 3.85%, SFGI Direct is 3.81%, Barclays 3.8%, and a bunch are giving you 3.75%, including American Express, Morgan Stanley's, aka E-Trade Savings, and Colorado Federal Savings Bank, Marcus by Goldman Sachs, and Quantic. And then Discover Bank's giving you 3.6%. First Internet Bank of Indiana and State Bank of Texas are both giving 3.56%, followed by Capital One giving you 3.5%, Liberty Federal Credit Union 3.45%, North Point giving 3.25%, Alliant 3.1%, Lake Michigan Credit Union 3%, PenFed Credit Union 2.7%, and that's basically it. So all in all, that adds up to almost 70 high yielding banks that there's plenty to choose from and survey from here. And I gathered this through some of my own surveying of going through a bunch of websites and Googling these interest rates. And it doesn't matter to me which bank account you might happen to go with, as long as you've done your homework and feel comfortable with them. And make sure you definitely look into the reviews, because they have some warnings about some of them that you'll have to verify and figure out yourself if those are true or not. But based on some of the more reputable ones, I think you can feel mostly assured if you've seen other people save their money at those banks, and if you feel like they offer decent customer service. That's also another thing to look into. If you can get a hold of someone if something goes wrong and you need help. All very important things to keep in mind. For now, these are some of the best high yielding bank accounts you can hope to come across. And there could be some differences between money market or savings accounts. So make sure you pay attention between some of these different kinds of accounts, because sometimes even a checking account has more interest than a savings account. It's kind of weird, but I don't know how some of these banks do it, but various kinds of accounts sometimes give you better deals than others. And if you're interested in locking up your money for several months to several years, maybe a certificate of deposit or CD could be of interest to you as well. But with such high rates from normal bank accounts, I don't feel the need to commit to a CD, because I'd rather have my money be more liquid, even if I'm sacrificing a few percentage points, which to me ultimately is not a big deal, for the comfort of having more liquidity. And also with the Federal Reserve next meeting in early May 2023, we'll see if they hike their Fed funds rate by maybe another 25 basis points or more. Who knows? Or maybe they won't raise them at all. We'll just have to see if they raise their rates, because then that might trickle down to normal banks, which may raise your savings interest rate, let's say. So maybe if we're so lucky, we'll get to earn even more interest throughout this year. And so if you found this video helpful, I hope you'll like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if there was a high yielding bank I didn't happen to mention. I'd love to learn more about them. And so I wish you well in getting the most interest you can in whatever bank you settle on. Until next time.